On the freezing mountainside, Ian and Barbara struggle against the cold, as, in the distance, auditions for the Star Trek theme can be heard. Being British, they both grind to a halt as soon as they're exposed to snow, and they fall into unconsciousness. Barbara briefly wakes up as a bearded man in furs stands over them. She seems distrustful of the figure, but hits the snooze button and passes out again before she can do or say anything. I'm sure it's just a misunderstanding. The man checks her hand and takes the key from it. Yeah, he seems completely trustworthy. Later on, at the man's cabin, he wakes Barbara up. He has brought both her and Ian in from the mountainside. He starts to rub Barbara's hand as a completely wrong way of combating frostbite. Perhaps he's hoping to get 3 wishes from her if he rubs her the right way. As he looks a bit too intently at her, he asks if she's afraid of him, then goes on to brag about his wolf-snapping skills, before finally introducing himself as Vassor, last name Lean. Barbara, now on high alert, goes over and wakes Ian. The clever science man immediately goes to warm his hands by the fire. Barbara warns him not to, and then proceeds to use Vassor's equally wrong technique. Perhaps she's hoping to get 3 wishes from him if she rubs him the right way. Actually, that's quite likely. Now, this may seem like a blunder by Barbara, but it's a very clever and subtle way of indicating that, while he's not as smart as he thinks he is, he's still dangerous and should be treated with caution. Clearly Barbara's hint didn't get through though, as when Vassor brings them both bowls of soup, Ian gulps his down, while she tentatively sips a tiny amount. Barbara uses Vassor's chatty mood to get the lay of the land, immediately asking how far away from civilization they are, 3 miles, and what other dangers are out in the mountains. Vassor's traps and dozens of packs of wolves, probably pissed off at being used for snapping practice. Ian manages a thank you between licks of his empty bowl. Vassor mentions a young man who was looking for a couple of girls, which immediately gets Ian and Barbara excited. Vassor doesn't understand their interest. He's not into men or girls. He likes women with some maturity. Ian asks to borrow some furs so he can go out and look for them. Vassor, convinced Ian will fall face first off the nearest ledge, generously allows him to trade his travel dial for them instead. Ian leaves, and Vassor locks the door behind him. He then goes on to invade Barbara's personal space again, before getting some food to fatten her up. He clearly likes mature women with meat on their bones. On the mountainside, Ian wanders through the snow. The Star Trek auditions are still ongoing, and now the local wolves are joining in. Ian finds an unconscious Altos in the snowdrift. He lifts him up to see his hands have been tied. Has he been left there to freeze, Or is it some game he was playing with Sabitha and Susan that went awry? At Vassal's cabin au Charisma, he and Barbara have just finished their meal. Vassal makes a mildly threatening comment about the locked door keeping anything out, or in, before they start to clear up. Barbara opens a drawer to put some spoons away. Unwashed spoons that they've just eaten with. I mean, look, maybe she's playing the long game and hoping Vassal gets the squits. Or the doctor's been showing them the futuristic comedy Friends and she's decided to copy Joey. She finds 4 travel dolls and Sabitha's necklace and keys. Seems Vassal is a hoarder. Sorry, a collector. I mean, his trophy collection could warrant investigation from the murder squad or the team from Criminal Minds. Vassal angrily grabs the necklace, claiming they were worth money. Unfortunately for him, they've been taken out of their packaging, so the value has been significantly reduced. He says he found Susan and Sabitha in a cave, but wasn't interested in bringing them back because they were too young and thin for his liking. He says he traded furs for their trinkets and left them there. He's still claiming Altos helped him with Ian and Barbara before going back to look for the girls, but Barbara doesn't believe a word of it. She demands to know what really happened, but Vassal, now with a bad case of the perv sweats, refuses to tell. Barbara says big strong Ian will get the truth out of him when he gets back, but Vassal just laughs and says he's packed a surprise in his bag. On the mountain, Ian's having a good old massage of Altos' leg. It's a pity Sabitha's not around, as it would have gone straight into her bank. Altos tells Ian that Vassal tied him up, and not in the fun way. As they get up to go back to the cabin, Vassal's surprise falls out of Ian's bag.
Meg, Vassal was making certain that you wouldn't get back. Well, he's got a surprise coming to him, hasn't he?
As Ian and Altos make their way to Vassal's cabin, Barbara is at the big trapper's mercy. He threatens her in a way that's a bit too real for a fun family space adventure serial, but credit where it's due, it's not played lightly, nor is it explicit, and it's over very quickly. Barbara also gets the better of him on her own, clobbering him with a fire poker and biting his hand. He's already a gibbering coward when she lets Ian and Altos in. Altos immediately goes to smack the cowering Vassal around, but Ian has a better idea. The trapper will be taken with them to find Susan and Sabitha. In an icy cave, Susan and Sabitha huddle for warmth as the scant amount of wood Vassal left them for a fire runs out. It's unfortunate for them that while he did have a sure fit of wood, it wasn't of the type suitable for burning. They decide to risk leaving the cave, but can't decide which tunnel is the way out. If only there was a man there. Not because their sense of direction would be any better, but they'd have the blind confidence to push ahead with their decision regardless. The 2 women discuss it instead, and then choose an exit. On the mountainside, the Fellowship of the Keys heads for the caves, Vassal begging to be allowed to go back once they reach them. In the cave, Susan and Sabitha's slither of a subplot hits a literal dead end. Ian and the gang enter the caves and find the warm ashes of the girls' fire. Ian forces the now gibbering Vassal to take them into the caves. Sabitha, and a now gibbering Susan, seems every travelling group needs a gibberer, finds a crevasse with a rope bridge to cross it. Susan crosses it first and acts as though it's made of live snakes. Sabitha, rather cruelly, tells her not to look down, knowing full well it will freak her out. Sabitha then crosses the bridge like it's nothing to worry about, because she's hard. As the others head further into the caves, Barbara stops long enough to inform everyone that the walls aren't rock or plastic, but solid ice. Honest. Susan and Sabitha enter a cave with 4 knights guarding a big block of ice. They hear the others arriving at the bridge and run to greet them. Ian, keen to give them some of his warmth, runs haphazardly across the bridge. Vassal unties his end and lets it fall. Oh, well done, Ian. That's what happens when you're led by your glands. While Ian stands and self-flagellates, Barbara comes up with a practical solution. They start looking for things that they can use to build a bridge to cross the crevasse. They enter a tunnel, and someone farts loudly. But it turns out not to be any of them, but a flatulent block of ice that's holding up some rocks of ice. Ian, desperate to regain some credibility, states the obvious to the women.
This rock's the only thing that's supporting this block of ice.
The travellers enter the cave with the knights. While Ian does his best doctor impression, they come to the conclusion that the knights must be what Vassal was terrified of. Sabitha spots the key in the centre of the block of ice. While Ian does his best to build up the fear factor of the somewhat placid looking knights,
They certainly look frightening enough, don't they?
the women are being more practical and exploring the area. Yes, even Susan is being useful. Between them they see a valve attached to the pipework that surrounds the ice block before running out of the cave. Barbara turns the tap on and Ian rushes over to, once again, chide her for taking action. He soon takes control of the situation when he realises that it was the right thing to do and the pipes are warming up. Sabitha asks where the hot water in the pipes is coming from, and Barbara leaps back into control of the situation.
It must be a volcanic spring, buried deep in the bowels of the earth. It's like the hot springs in Iceland.
She sticks an extra knife into Ian's heart by mentioning Iceland and making him immediately melancholy. His sad response when Sabitha asks where this is would be genuinely affecting if the shot didn't cut away to Susan in the ice block mid-sentence.
Iceland? Where's that?
No, far away.
Although he does claim Iceland is in our own country, which suggests that either the Doctor or Susan has shown them the future frozen delights of the budget supermarket. They leave the ice block to melt while they go and try to sort out the bridge. Ian and Altos tie some large stalagmites together and fashion a bridge out of them. Altos tells Ian he sent the girls off to keep an eye on the ice while they got on with the hard work. Bless him, helping Ian feel useful after he's witnessed several emasculations. In the cave, the ice has melted, freeing the key, and the knights have gone all flaccid. Susan admires the weapons of the nearest knight, which immediately arouses him. They leg it out of the cave, Sabitha also giving Ian a little esteem boost by falling over, letting him help her up. The knights move stiffly after them. As Ian fights off the slow-moving knights, Susan decides to risk crossing the freshly made bridge. It cracks and starts to break under her. Which Altos attributes to her weight, and definitely not his and Ian's shoddy and rushed construction job. Ian runs under the flatulent ice block and dislodges it. It spectacularly fails to bring down any more ice, so Ian has to once again fight off the knight's advances. He swears to himself that if he's ever offered a chance to become one of those creeps, he'll refuse. To the disbelief of everyone, me included, Susan makes it across the lashed together bridge and reattaches the other end of the rope bridge. Yay! In the tunnel, one of the knights lifts up Fart Block to let his brethren through. Hang on, how did he get that side? The travellers get over the rope bridge and Ian pulls the Vassal manoeuvre, causing one of the knights to fall into the crevasse. The other three bust out of the tunnel and look comically around. All of Ian's hard work of building them up being pissed straight down that crevasse and onto the shattered bones of their fallen comrade. Back at his shack, Vassor is admiring his collection. As the travellers burst in, he legs it as they reclaim their stuff. They prepare to leave, but Vassor runs back in, screaming that they are coming for him. What the they are could be any number of things. The spirits of all the snapped wolves, a mob of people he's assaulted over the years, angry customers who want their money back after finding rotten meat sewn into the lining of their coats, the increasing smells leaving them as social pariahs, and, in extreme cases, hypochondriacs. He grabs Susan and holds her hostage as the others weigh up the pros and cons of just leaving her. Vassor gets penetrated without his consent, a fitting end. The three knights burst in as the travellers disappear. I mean, was there a bloody back door out of that cave or something? In what appears to be a museum, there's an unconscious man. Ian checks on him and then immediately tries breaking into one of the cases. He's clobbered on the head for his cheek. And just like that, Ian has ended the episode as he started it, with a nice little nap. The black-gloved assailant puts a rather elaborately decorated truncheon in Ian's hand, before opening the case and stealing the key from inside, which triggers the alarm.